I mean, effectively, the series of webinars we've been running over the months have been specifically focused around remote working, and IT security fits nicely into that. You know, the environment we find ourselves in today is one that's very different. Organizations are really embracing the remote working technologies that are available in the market. But all the while, you know, that mustn't lose sight of the impact this will have on the security of a corporate network infrastructure. Increased number of endpoints into the corporate WAN need to be secure. Applications need to be centralized. The wide area network can be improved on. So today we'll be hearing from 3 suppliers that all complement that. We'll be hearing from Alert Logic around threat management detection, Rackspace around application management, centralization of services, and Masergy around SD-WAN and improvements that can be made in that area. My name is Scott Aldridge. I work for a company called Primetel. We are advisors to organizations that are looking to make a change within their IT environment. We can work with you through any stage of the buying cycle that you're in, whether that's tender writing, solution design, or just supplier selection, as there are a vast number of suppliers out there in the market that provide a myriad of services. By working with Primetel, we allow you to save time on the supplier selection process by bringing in suppliers that meet your criteria that you've outlined to us. So typically we show a time saving of around 50%, and we leverage our experience in the market to commercial advantage. So thank you again for everyone. I'll now hand over to Alert Logic.
Right, so thanks so much, Scott. So good afternoon, everybody. So thanks very much for giving a little bit of your time this afternoon to really understand a little bit more about what we and the other suppliers actually do. My name is Will Morris. I run Alert Logic in EMEA. We've got about 150 people in the UK and about 130 people based in our SOC, and then a further sort of 500 or so based over in the States. And what I'm going to take you through is really what do we view as managed detection and response, and really what is the need for managed detection and response, and how does this affect you as a business. I am, however, going to stop my video because my internet is a little bit on the shaky side today. But I think the main thing is originally when we were approached about this, it was talking about people working from home. And I think one of the interesting things from a security perspective, and this is true whether it's from ourselves, Masergy or Rackspace, is security in the perspective of working from home is hackers have always been working from home. They've always had an advantage of wherever they work from. And today it's not so much just about how do you protect your employees from where they're based, it's really about how do you protect all of your IT stack. And so before I go into what we do, I'll look at the way that security has often been spoken about many times before, and certainly many of you, I'm sure, are in this situation. The way to fix security, people have always been told, is we'll just buy more stuff. Go out and get this next tool. Go out and buy this next new thing. And with every one of these investments, it's something else to look at, something else to do, but you're always assured that it's going to keep you that much more safer. The reality is, and from a numbers perspective, it just isn't working that way. This graph here has got sort of cyber investments year on year, and it's somewhat linear, a little bit over what you'd expect from inflation to be from 2011 forward. And so whilst there's been a linear constant improvement investment that's actually come through in cybersecurity, the challenge really is the red line. And the key thing here, and this sort of nexus point makes it very clear, is that we're now almost getting to a point where there's this exponential growth within cybersecurity losses. So this isn't attacks, this isn't hacks, this isn't the amount of attempts that are made, but these are the actual dollar value losses to businesses when they've actually been taken down. I think the most recent one, for any of you that go out running or do sort of exercise, anybody that's got a Garmin smartwatch, really, there's a key thing to take here. Those guys were down, I think, from Sunday and through till Wednesday. Were actually held to ransom by an attacking group, and it actually meant that their business didn't work. It just stopped. And so the question is how do you actually do this? How do you make the right investment into the right services, really so that you get the right bang for your buck? For every dollar that you're going to be spending on cybersecurity, how are you making sure that it really is working as that policy to make sure that you are not getting those losses? And that's really where we come in and what we do. So we really focus ourselves around this, all about managed detection and response. The detection piece is really about letting you know where you've got holes and what needs to be fixed. And then also the detection is really about seeing if the bad guys get in. And then the key thing here is the response. And then what do you do to get them out or to limit the damage from them? And from us, it's really that focus on managed. What we do with all of the staff, we're not just another tool. We're not just another thing that your team need to log on and look at. For us, it's all about the AlertLogic staff engaging with you, your teams, or your partners to actually help protect and enable you. So the way that we do this, we sort of have got super simple value prop. So the value prop couldn't get any simpler. What we do is we reduce the likelihood or reduce the impact of a successful cyber attack. Those are really the two key things that AlertLogic does. We don't care where your IT systems are. We don't care what platform they're on, whether in the data center, on-premise, inside a cloud, or whether they're on an employee's laptop at home. Our entire reason for being is to reduce that likelihood of a cyber attack or to reduce the impact. And the way that we view the world is this. In this graph, you've got the point of compromise inside an enterprise, and before it, you've got minutes, hours, days, and afterwards the same side. To the left-hand side, so when people get breached, nearly 90% of all attacks are actually successful in a matter of minutes. And the reason for this is because people are actually, the hackers are going out there, they're doing sort of large spray and pray attacks over vast swathes of the internet, and they're looking for vulnerabilities that they can then take advantage of, and that's when people get taken down. The antithesis to this is post-compromise. Nearly 70% of all breaches take months to be detected. And it's really from these two things that you've got the most damage caused in an enterprise. To the left-hand side of a compromise, but it happens really quickly and it takes you down. This is typically where ransomware and other pieces can live because they are getting into a straight vulnerability. But on the right-hand side, these are typically the places where people end up on the front of the Financial Times. This is the likes of EasyJet, British Airways, TalkTalk, and others, where not only do the hackers actually get in, they actually manage to cause significant damage or exfiltrate significant amounts of data. And so the way that AlertLogic helps our customers is really in twofold. So the first thing is to the right-hand side of that compromise, we are making sure that we limit the damage of if an attacker gets in. And the way that we do this is it's a full 24/7 service, all monitored, all managed entirely by AlertLogic staff. And what we're doing is we're taking telemetry from throughout your IT stack, whether it's a network, whether it's a server, whether it's an endpoint, whether it's your SaaS provider, Salesforce, whether it's something like Okta, or whether it's in any of the clouds and any of the servers you're running, and all of that gets pulled back to the AlertLogic platform. If we see across any of this estate anything that looks like an incident, instead of us calling you every 5 minutes or letting you know that something may be happening, every one of those incidents comes back to the AlertLogic SOC, and we then triage that event and work out, is this a real incident for this customer right now? And if it is, one of our security experts are on the phone to help extricate that threat and work with you on the incident response. We also do a huge amount of threat hunting across all of our customers as well. And then to really lower that risk on the left-hand side, we've then got another service. This is called Essentials. This does a number of different things. One is it does vulnerability management and asset discovery. The old adage, if you can't protect those things that you don't know about. So here, what we're really doing is we're helping you understand what have you got throughout your IT stack, what vulnerabilities have you got, and then we help you, give you the service and tooling to help you remediate all of those threats. And that's really lowering that level of risk, and ideally meaning that you're not going to be the next Garmin, you're not going to be the next Travelex or somebody. We've then got another a couple of things that we do on the left-hand side of this as well. We've got something called Extended Endpoint Agent. What this does is it really stops fileless malware attacks. So these are the attacks that typically your AV may not pick up. When we do tests and things, we see things that Sophos and others don't see. But the whole point here is it's an additional layer of security for your laptops and desktops and for your remote workers. And then finally, the other piece that we do is a web application firewall. For any public estates that you've got, we make sure that we are actively blocking attacks before they even get through to you. And through this balance of services, platform, and people, that we both lower the risk on the left-hand side of you actually being breached, and on the right-hand side, be prepared for the point of if somebody gets in, and we really make sure that we limit the amount of damage that can be caused. And then the final thing that we do is we wrap all of this around with a designated security analyst. So this is one of our team They typically only have 5 accounts, and all they do is work at making sure that your team, your platform, and your IT stack is constantly getting more and more secure. So the way that we do it is this. So first of all, coverage. We look at everything that is running throughout your IT stack. We're native in Docker. We're in just about every cloud you can think of. G Suite, Office 365. We're taking telemetry and data all back from that. And that's both looking for signs of attacks, but also looking for things like user behavior. For instance, why was your admin logging on from London today, and then this afternoon they're logging on from Ukraine? All of this comes back to us and would raise incidents that our SOC would actually look at. Also, where you've already invested in other technology, of course, you've got things like perimeter firewalling and antivirus. We'll take telemetry from that as well, all so that we can see it and enrich it and look for those security incidents. On top of that, our platform is massive. It's one of the biggest in the world. We've got about 30 petabytes. I think it's 32 petabytes of data from all of our customers. And the thing that's quite unique about this, and you may be running your own SIEM platform now, or you may be working with an MSSP, the thing that makes us really different is all of our customer data is in a great big data lake for us. So when we do threat hunting in one customer, we're able to threat hunt across all of our customers, which means that we're able to find good amount of 0 days. And what we're also able to do is, if you're actually vulnerable to attacks that we're seeing elsewhere on our platform, we'll automatically be on the phone to you and letting you know about those, and certainly if they're critical issues. And then the final piece that we do, it's all about expertise, all about the humans that live on top of the technology. So it's completely removing false positives as much as possible. If we call you up at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning because something needs to be done, we're very confident that it is going to be an issue, and you'll be really pleased to get that phone call. We make sure that what we give you is completely actionable. So we work with customers who have great big security teams. We also work with customers that don't have any security teams at all. And in which case, whoever we're on the phone to, we're adept at being able to tell them what they need to do right now to help extricate the threat. The way that we license this is incredibly simple. We've got a flat rate price for where we do a dedicated analyst that works with you. For everything that sits within the MDR piece, so this is the full 24/7 SOC. This is a telemetry from all of your IT platforms, and it's taking logs from all of your systems. All of this just works on a really simple model of the number of nodes. So how many things are sending us logs and how many things are we monitoring? It's a very simple pricing model. And then finally, for the essentials piece, so the piece about lowering risk, finding vulnerabilities, protecting endpoints, this is just on the number of devices that we scan. Typically, when we look at this from a pricing model, whether it's direct or whether it's through one of our partners, we're very, very confident this is a significantly more cost beneficial way of doing things than even trying to do it yourself or going through an MSSP. We've also just had a report come out. So Forrester have just done their managed service provider report. This came out only a couple of days ago. Forrester reviewed Alert Logic. In the case of many of the bigger MSSPs, you'll notice if people are missing from here, from other vendors that really call themselves sort of MDR, typically it's because they haven't got 100 people in their SOC, or they're not of a size where they can scale to big enterprises. But really from where Alert Logic is, we are absolutely out there. And from a Forrester's perspective, keep running circles around the cloud. This is great, but again, we of course help customers whether it is on-prem, whether it's in their data center or in the cloud. So overall, that's a quick 10-minute overview of Alert Logic, managed detection and response, and really a way that you can look at all of your IT investments and look at security in a slightly different way. It's all about taking telemetry from the correct platforms and correct systems, bringing that back into a team of experts where they can look and help you with your vulnerabilities and then help on incidents to make sure that you're not the next Gartner, you're not the next Travelex that gets taken down. And we've got a long list of big enterprise clients that we serve today. That's it. Love to talk to you more. And if so, please do come through the team and we'd love to have a meeting with you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. I was going to take back the control. Congratulations on placement in the Forrester Wave. That's excellent news. Yeah, we're definitely seeing more and more in the news about ransomware. That Garmin thing was huge. and yeah, from what I'm reading, it's not very sure whether they actually ended up paying the ransom or not. So
absolutely, it was a massive thing for them, and I think this is it. It's any other mistake people make is they always think, well, it was Garmin or it was EasyJet because they're big names.
Yeah.
It's just these are the interesting ones that make it into the news. Companies of all sizes are being taken down to a similar and worse estate every single day.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, now we'll hand over to Lee at Rackspace. Do you want to take control, Lee, or do you want me to drive?
Yeah, if I can, Scott, let's give that a go. And while we're just putting that control in place, William, thank you for a wonderful presentation. You know, we're big partners of AlertLogic. You're supporting us with many of our customers in many different ways in MDR and many solutions. So thank you for that. It was an excellent overview. And like you say, I think it's interesting. And I when I looked at our presentation talking around how to stay secure with a remote workforce, you know, I've not read into detail some of the big hacks that have happened just recently, but you know, it's making sure that if you do move to a remote workforce and many people working from home, you, in essence, from a security perspective, don't let your guard down. You know, I think especially as we started out at the beginning of the pandemic, it was, you know, it was a novelty to work from home, and now, you know, we've seen companies like Google now extend work from home until July next year. Ourselves are currently September and looking to review. So now it's now becoming a standard way of working rather than just something we're looking to do for a small period of time. So I'm going to talk a little bit around, just feeding back on Williams there. I thought it was great, give me some food for thought. My name is Lee James. I'm the CTO at Rackspace. I'm going to talk to you today around how to stay secure with a remote workforce. I'm going to talk about what that means for us as Rackspace, but then also talk about what that means for our customers as well. So let me see if I can move through. Oh, there we go. I think I've managed to completely kill it, Scott. There we go.
Hold on. You got it? Or?
Let me just spin that back. There we go. Thank you. Wonderful. So as I mentioned, we'll talk about Rackspace Technology, also how we've secured our workforce in Rackspace, how we've helped our customers, also then any Q&A at the end, and we'll run through that too. So some surprising statistics. William mentioned there in his presentation just around where threats are coming from, and they come from many different places, and some of those threats that we see from a security perspective are very direct. As you can see, 4,000 COVID domains have been registered since March 2020. You know, so that's people just obviously acting and trying to get people to click on links, set up websites, direct you, misdirect you in terms of information. 33% of IT decision makers have admitted that their organizations have suffered data breaches as well as a result of remote working. And I touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the presentation. You know, remote working is not a novelty anymore, it's something that's standard. But what comes with those standards is some changes. A recent study that we undertook was around 56% of employees feeling more anxious and stressed. How do you cope with work from home? You know, I'm currently working from home today, as you can see. I'm sat in my daughter's playroom. If I take the door to my left, suddenly my family are all in front of, well, they're not stood there now, that'd be a bit weird, but they are all available. How much did we love that either the train ride home or the drive home from work, actually just to get the day out of you, you know, so you can arrive home and be fresh for your family, maybe just have a chance to breathe out. Suddenly I open that door and I have to now mentally switch into dad and husband, and that can be quite difficult. We inside Rackspace have also found 44% of young people almost 3 times more likely to experience loneliness. You know, how many remote workers of you have that are single on their own? And actually, during the pandemic, couldn't go out. Their only actual engagement was either via a Zoom meeting. There was no physical contact, and that can have a big impact on the security of your workforce, and then also the actions of people. And then 5% of organizations have only made changes to their acceptable use policy during COVID. And I think that's really interesting. You know, obviously, the same rules apply, but how do they apply to your home environment? You know, Wi-Fi connectivity, network connectivity, etc. So we'll touch on that a little bit too. I'm just going to touch through just a little bit on Rackspace. We're 20 plus years old, 22 years old this year. We're now Rackspace Technology. We started with 5 people in our fanatical support in 1998. And we currently sit today at 6,800 rackers. That's what we call ourselves internally. As you can see, we've developed through being a managed hosting provider. We put racks in spaces, obviously, right through to where we are today. We see ourselves as the multi-cloud specialists, not just multi-cloud, but then also cloud native apps, data, and especially security as well. As I've mentioned, a big partner of AlertLogic. We've undertook a number of acquisitions through that time as well. We're well known in the industry for our fanatical experience, which is an evolution of our support. And we manage and judge ourselves completely by Net Promoter Score. And our score today is 62, which is fantastic. If you look at Apple today, that's 80. And that's the way that we judge all of our services and whether they've been successful to our customers today. This is us, this is our workforce, this is the thing that we care about the most. We obviously care a huge amount about customers, but this is our atrium inside Hayes, just outside of Stockley Park in London. One day I'd like to get back to this, fingers crossed it can be in the near future. One day I'd love to stand, that's me, just down right at the bottom left-hand corner. I would love to be part of this view again. This is when we acquired DataPipe and welcomed them into the Rackspace family. There's some key things about Rackspace and how we operate and why a culture is really important to us. We have a key tenet of it. It's okay to be me at Rackspace. We don't expect a business or a personal persona to turn up. We expect you and your persona. And we spend a huge amount of investment and time and effort around our resource groups. All of our rackers have 100 hours of volunteer time to give back each year. We have many, many mental health charities as well, all heading towards our value proposition, which is what we want to be as a valued member of a winning team on an inspiring mission. And I'll touch on why that's important. Lots of certifications. As I mentioned, 6,800 people, but 3,400 cloud engineers today. We had a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. William mentioned about Forrester. We've also just been classed as a leader in Forrester as well for our multi-cloud and private cloud solutions. And as you can see, lots of different certifications there. We have a Rackspace University that provides all of our staff free certification time, education time. But the key bit in the middle is we are regularly in the top 10, top 5 best places to work around the world. And that's what we pride ourselves on, getting those pieces just as much as the certifications. We are here to talk about security. We have 9,000 security customers today, global security operation centers. And we are the first AWS Cloud Native Security Hub partner and GCP security specialisms as well. We manage over 22,000 firewalls for our customers across the globe today. And as you can see, I mentioned our partners there with William and AlertLogic, but also many others that you can see on the list, all backed by our experience and security certifications as well. So how have we secured our workforce? Now, I talked about this picture earlier. All of these people here love the culture. You walk around Rackspace, we have flags for how long people have been at Rackspace. We have flags for certifications that they have. You can maybe make them out just at the top banister. The third one in, if anybody could ever do on the Q&A, give me a prize back on what that one is. That's actually my flag, which is the checkered amber and black one. I will personally give a good voucher if anybody can guess what that is, but it's very much associated with my accent. But we miss this. And we miss, our culture. But importantly, we're very conscious of how do we replicate this at home, but how do we also then bring the security controls and messages that go with it as well. So when you look through, we see a lot of change in requirements. Sorry, just double click there, let me just flip back. For a working environment, we have to support workforce who requires a different mindset. Many of our rackers today have to support different shift patterns. Many are parents, many of their spouses, their partners, for example, are also either furloughed or are working. How do we look after children? How do we look after people where, I'm sat in my children's playroom today doing calls. I can guarantee you that my children do not want me sat in this playroom doing calls today. They would rather be in this playroom. So how do you support mental health and well-being? And also, how do you drive engagement? And as we say, how do you still make people smile every day? How do we recreate the picture? So how do you provide access to productivity tools? But really importantly, how do you provide secure access and increase knowledge for remote workers as well? Because going home can feel like a novelty, but you still have to make sure that your laptop is safe, your data is safe, your information is safe. We have many Rackers that work with all of our partners like AWS, Google, VMware, Microsoft, for example. They're working on, high risk environments, key environments, regulatory environments. How do we keep that secure as well as we go through? So for Rackers, what have we done? So we've seamless transition of 6,800 people now working from home. I just want to say a special thanks to all of our data center staff and facilities staff that continue to be on site. We conduct over 5,000 Zoom meetings per day. Just for information, I am trying to get Zoomed out to be an English dictionary edition this year. So if anybody would like to support me on that, I think that'd be fantastic. But we have 99.5% of all Rackers working from home. So what we've now put in place is wellness days. We now give 3 days off for Rackers because we're very conscious, like all of us sat here on Zoom today. Many of us sit here from 8 till 5. Who takes a break? How many 10,000 step days have you done today? What impact does that have on your mental health? We've also then provided non-surgical masks to all of our Rackers. We've made sure that we've upped and increased the investment around our Racker mental health groups as well. And that for us has been absolutely fantastic. We've had zero major communication and collaboration technology issues. We've updated our acceptable use policies as well. We've continued to run sessions for all of our Rackers to understand what's a requirement of them, but done it in a fun way. We've had teams set up countdown events, have Zoom meetings, Zoom parties, which has been great. And as you can see over on the right-hand side, that's actually led to a successful 35 new solutions coming through, so specific COVID solutions, as well as then high levels of SLA attainment and NPS scores as well, and NPS-T. We've also then, as I mentioned, it's not just about tooling. We put in place new acceptable use policies around work from home, and we ask you to take a look at that. We've sent our staff some biscuits to be happy on Zoom. How many times have we sat there on Zoom and thought, actually, I've maybe not moved from this desk for about 5 or 6 hours. So the small acts of kindness really mean something. As I've mentioned as well, we've dedicated that time out to be fun and engaging. And we have a roving genius bar for certain areas where we have groups of Rackers, whether that's in Texas or in London, because IT support is just as important. If something breaks down and your laptop doesn't work, it's no longer pop into the genius bar and get it updated. Now a Racker could then go, actually, I'll go and log on my home PC. What does that mean from a security perspective? So putting that in place and understanding that is really key. And we've increased our monitoring, optimized user personas, so we understand what people need and when, because I need, as a CTO, certain requirements against the support staff. And we've also reduced the number of tooling that we give to our Rackers as well, because that also then provides a security bubble around that too. And then how have we helped our customers? So we've also delivered some solutions here, and we've built some solutions with Microsoft, AWS, and VMware, some cost optimization, cost performance, but also put in place remote security solutions for remote access and protecting against bad actors. As I've mentioned right at the beginning, there's been a huge amount of new attacks, 4,000 COVID domains come up, all with the intention of trying to get data from you. Text messages coming through on phones. So the solutions are just about education, but also trying to stop those coming through. And then also increased things like application monitoring for our customers. Very conscious, many people work in different locations, and as stores have closed down in many locations, have had to fire up e-com environments, which have obviously been coming under attack from things like DDoS, etc. So we've put in additional support around that too. And then here's some direct security solutions for remote workers, as I've mentioned. Blocking malicious URLs, additional security for employee logins, identifying threats as well around IPS, and then putting in place some of our best solutions around Armor Anywhere, around malware protection, and others as well. Our security centers across Texas and London as well have never been so busy. And that's helped us as well then provide the white glove service there around PDR and MDR, which is also then giving coverage 24/7 and rapid remediation. Many of the things that William spoke about, we provide that across Alert Logic solutions as well. I apologize for the noise in the background. You tend to, when you do Zoom meetings and webinars, get the builders doing some work and then the child screaming from the other side as well. So just to touch on that. We've also then committed to the greater good. We provide free access to cloud health, which is the ability to look at all of your services you have across public clouds and your spend. We provided 10 million in free OpenStack public cloud support. That's been used by many organizations, through from banks to charities, as well as then providing Microsoft Teams for free for many customers and providing the education and support around that too. Finally, here's a bit here around taking an active approach. If you want any further details, you can go to rackspace.com/security. But I hope the presentation has been educational. If you want to talk to us about what we've done around our rackers and making those secure and some of the solutions, please let us know. And Scott, sorry for running over a couple of minutes extra.
All right.
So thank you.
No worries. Firstly, has anyone got any questions as we're going? If you have, just take yourself off mute. Or forever hold your peace. So no, thanks, Lee. That was really good. You know, Rackspace is a great name in that space, and that, you know, looking at the capabilities there, the company's really gone from strength to strength. So it's great to see, and also really great to see that, you know, there's real consideration and thought going into how your staff are coping with working from home. You know, it's refreshing to see, and I'm sure not all companies are the same. So thank you. So hold on, let's go back a slide. So next we'll be hearing from Nick at Masergy. Nick, I'm just going to give you control of the slides. Let me know if you've got that. If you go down to the bottom, there's present.
Oh, apologies, it's not.
Hold on, let me drive. I can do it from here.
Yeah, you drive, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. All right, let me take back control. Just tell me when you want to switch slides.
Yeah, so thanks. Interesting to hear Lee make some comments around Net Promoter Score, and I'll touch on that again in a second. So my name's Nick Ratty. I'm a Global Account Director at Masergy. I'm actually standing in for my colleague today who's decided to go on holiday. So he's one of my peers. And I'm actually looking forward to getting away this Saturday because I'm flying out to Turkey. I've actually decided to bite the bullet and go away. So thanks for giving me the time today to present to you guys. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Masergy as a company, because we very much often get the Mesa who, but we're a global organization. We typically operate in 2 major markets in terms of a footprint, so North America and the UK. We're a 20-year-old company, so very similar to Rackspace, but we've not grown quite to the same sort of size as Rackspace. And we focus on a number of areas, and I'll take that through to you in a little bit. Again, Net Promoter Score is massively important, and it was interesting to hear Rackspace and Lee talk about the culture of the business. The culture of Masergy is very, very similar to Rackspace. We're also very focused on Net Promoter Score, so customer satisfaction, so much so that everyone outside of sales in the business is actually compensated. About 1/3 of their bonus annually on the corporate structure is bonused on Net Promoter Score. So to give you an idea, that's everyone from a tier 1 engineer who takes a support call right the way up to our CEO. So it's ingrained into the culture of the business. So if you want to click to the next slide. So we have been in Gartner now for 4 years. You'll look at the plethora of competitors that we typically sit against, and some of these are huge Goliath type organizations. Typically, the reason we're not in what I would class the leader section is because we don't have that breadth of services, like, you know, mobile and a number of other services that the tier 1s deliver to their customers. But we are recognized by Gartner as in the visionary category. Colt have literally started to catch up with us in that space, but we've been delivering global network services for like 20 years. So if you click to the next slide. So what do we do, and how do we do it? We actually operate in 3 core areas. The first one is global network connectivity, with what I class as true next-gen connectivity. So the ability for customers to self-administer and make changes to their network globally through a single portal or pane of glass. We have a full suite of collaboration services. So what I mean by that is we can offer a telephony platform that extends from the UK right the way down to Australia. It's built on the Cisco BroadSoft platform, and it enables us to give customers that fully integrated telephony solution, not only from a rip and replace point of view, but also a hybrid environment and integration into things like Teams, which is now starting to become more prevalent. And we're seeing a huge amount of that going on, especially with the COVID-19 experience at the moment. I'm continuously getting on calls with clients. It's literally one after the other, where they've got an existing phone system that's sitting in a corporate office that's doing nothing at the moment. Their users are starting to use things like Teams, and it's becoming more prevalent. And now what they're starting to look at is, how can I integrate that Teams into either my existing telephony platform or the dial directly out of Teams and use that as my interface and my telephony solution altogether. So we've got a raft of solutions in that space. And then the final piece, which is becoming really important, is how do you secure all of that from a security perspective with all of these types of new solutions and services and technology that you're starting to bring together. And we look at things slightly different in the terms of, we secure the edge, the end users, and then take all of that information, including the network flow data, into a single pane of glass. So if you click on to the next slide, and again. So this just gives you a snapshot of the global platform that we operate. What's actually happened, and one of the things I'm going to touch on, is the fact that now SD-WAN is becoming more prevalent in the marketplace. This is actually opening up our market in terms of the types of customers that we can go after. What we're also seeing from a number of the corporates that even I'm talking to now is, do I really need that office? Do I really need that physical location? So a number of the large corporates are really right now starting to evaluate the way that they operate. I was on the phone with the CIO not that long ago. They have about 4,000 to 5,000 employees globally. They're a software firm, and they have about 80 offices across the globe. And their thought process right now is, we have moved everyone remotely. All of those employees are working remotely. The job satisfaction and work-life balance seems to be going up. Productivity seems to be going up. And I think right now in the marketplace, the enterprise customers out there are really starting to evaluate whether they actually need these large operations to operate in terms of these glossy offices. So there's a lot of movement going on in that space. So if we click to the next slide. Click these ones right through, Scott, so we can build the picture. Oh, back, sorry. So in terms of where we come in as a solution offering, especially around the network, we have started to see a prevalence in terms of the way that the corporate enterprise user is connecting. And as an operation and as a business, we actually are very agnostic in terms of the way that we will deliver services to client. We're seeing multiple users coming over VPNs. Customers are wanting to bring their own network connectivity, whether that be public or private. They may be looking right now to transition from the traditional type network that they're operating in and are looking to transition to a new SD-WAN world. And the advantage with the SD-WAN world is it does give you that ability to have a lot more flexibility and get a lot more bang for your buck. And we look at things from the perspective that we will deliver an end-to-end solution for a client, and we'll work with those clients to design and optimize the solution depending on their environment. There is a huge migration going on to the cloud. The legacy data centers are typically being shut down and moved into either AWS and Azure. And then we're also seeing SASE as another key thing that customers are looking for. So if you move to the next slide. So what does that mean? So the way that we look at it is, if you look at the Masergy core and the Masergy SD-WAN network, we are typically securing it with a fully integrated solution on the edge, which is effectively backed by the Fortinet product, the Fortinet SD-WAN. That product would sit on the edge, and that then gives the customer or the enterprise access to all of these services around the edge, whether it be a telephony solution, a remote working solution, access to AWS and Google and Azure. And what we effectively give our customers is the ability to have a very flexible and adaptable platform. And what's also significantly advantage with our services and solution is there's a single pane of glass which customers have access to control not only where the applications are flowing and how much bandwidth they're using, but also the ability to sweat those multiple types of access to deliver the optimum solution for that customer. So we look at things not just from a networking perspective, but an application performance perspective. So if you click through. So what do I mean by one platform and one portal? So it's probably worth me just setting the scene on where Masergy came from and how we've ended up having what I would class as probably the market leading portal for global connectivity across the globe. When we designed the company 20 years ago, it was started by a bunch of engineers who effectively thought that the market was underserved, the large carriers were not delivering to the customers, and what we wanted to do is build a global unified platform that enabled to give the same level of service anywhere in the globe, regardless of where that customer site was. The way we did that is we knew that we weren't going to have multiple people sitting in the back office keying in information like those typical large carriers that are out there, and I'm not going to name names, but they will typically have multiple technologies, multiple people in the back office, multiple billing systems, provisioning systems, and they're very inwardly focused on how do we get all of this stuff to work and deliver the services to the customer. So the customer becomes second in terms of their priorities. When we started our business, we decided that we were going to be what we call software defined, or SDN networking, which is what all the carriers are talking about. And what that enabled us to do is build a software platform that enabled us to provision services through automated processes. And what happened over time is customers wanted access to a lot of our self-provisioning and delivery tools that we use to run customers' networks. So what we did is we developed a front-end portal that then allows customers to make changes to their environment real time. So if you click to the next slide, we're now starting to take things even further in terms of what we're developing. And this is, ladies and gentlemen, the event of something that we call, and something you're going to start to see in the future, something called autonomous networking. So this will be networks that will basically run themselves and make changes themselves to deliver the optimum performance of that application, whether it's a voice call coming from Teams into an Azure stack or something around those lines. And we've already released and started and delivered stuff for customers, which we have now branded AI Ops. So it's almost like having an artificial intelligence or engineer looking at the network and making recommendations on changes and stuff that can be done to that network to make it more optimum in terms of the application performance. If you click to the next slide. So where would AI Ops come in? It comes in on things like IP address overlaps, QoS misconfigurations. It will automatically tell you whether you're going to start hitting thresholds on the network, which, by the way, we allow customers to then go in and make changes to the network. So they can turn up any connection around the globe as long as the access speed is there to support it, to turn that network connectivity up. Next slide. Where we are seeing that this is becoming really important is the fact that we are now, with the advent of SD-WAN and customers using the internet as a connectivity method, the threat vectors into the enterprise are becoming ever more a risk to the business. So what we've seen in terms of a business that we acquired 8 years ago is the network and security are almost going hand in hand, so much so that as we move forward with our products and services, we are now layering on additional features and functions around the security metrics that we will do to support that customer environment. Next slide. So identity-based WAN. So what we're doing in terms of those security features is we are basically capturing NetFlow data. We're looking at stuff that's coming off the firewalls or the Fortinet edge devices that we've got, and we're capturing that data and feeding it into very much a SIEM site environment, a SIEM environment. So what we do is we capture the data, not only the data that's going in and out of the network, whether that's a remote user, a fixed site, or even a data center. We capture that data that goes north-south, in and out of the network infrastructure, but we're also capturing the data that goes east-west. And we effectively build up a picture of what's going on within that network architecture, even between virtual servers within a virtual environment in an AWS or Azure environment. That is all then fed into a very large big data analytics and AI engine. And then what that does is that enables us to look at any anomalies that we see that are going on within the network, even stuff that may be, you know, what they class as grains of sand and seeping very small bits of information out over a period of time. The artificial intelligence and the WAN analytics and the NetFlow data that we get all gets ingested into a single point. Scott, next one. So that's all very well and good, but one of the other things that we've realized is customers really, especially with remote working and even in the corporate enterprise, really don't understand what's going on their network in terms of the amount of applications that are running within the network. So one of the things that we include as part of our service is something called Shadow IT and Discovery, which will effectively look at all the applications within the network, where they reside, and it will then give them a risk score based on what that threat profile is around that application that's running, and gives them more visibility into what's going on. So if you next slide. So how do we do it? So we basically have three areas that we concentrate in. There's the standard network with a firewall that goes on the edge, and we use that effectively now as the routing function, the firewall function, the SD-WAN function. And what we do is we start to layer on services to our customers depending on where they are in the life cycle. So very much in the solutions that we're seeing today, customers will have an existing firewall estate. However, they want to sweat that existing firewall estate. So we will then deploy and manage an SD-WAN type service that will just do the bare basics, but with the ability to integrate things like unified threat management at a later date. And then we can layer on additional services using our SOC service, which would then be going to the threat monitoring response, right the way up to what we call our fully blown managed enterprise security service, which would cover pretty much everything, eyes on screen, 24/7, 365, monitoring everything that's going on within that environment from all the core infrastructure that you've got across the globe. Next. So within the network and the solutions that we're giving, obviously SD-WAN is with the next gen firewall that's fully integrated into the SOC. We do look at those 24/7 real time, so there are eyes on screen looking at that, and we're obviously ingesting a large amount of data from multiple customers. And then effectively what we do is with that data, we can, depending on the security policies with that customer, we can either block those events that are happening real time, or depending on what your SARP or your security incident response process is, we can customize and tune stuff to meet those customers' needs. Next. So what's different about the Masergy experience? We're an engineering company at heart. We've always been an engineering company, and that's enabled us to deliver what I believe are probably some of the market leading solutions and software driven solutions that we've got today. You get dedicated project management. We run 24/7 NOCs. We run 3 NOCs across the globe, one in Manila, one in Dallas, and one in the UK. We sign up to some pretty significant SLAs in terms of notifications. If we get into the network SLAs, we are market leading by a country mile. And in fact, last week, we just launched 100% availability SLAs for all customers' corporate offices connected globally by dual path. We have a typical 99% retention rate on our customers. And again, leading back into what Lee said earlier, NPS massively important to us, and we've had 70+ NPS for the last 4 years. Next. So, in summary, the network's important, but security is actually as important to solutions that we're talking to with customers now. Consider your cloud environment as well. So how are you securing that cloud environment, whether that be an AWS and Azure, as well as the perimeter-based security? Remote workers really shouldn't represent a security weakness in your posture, so that zero trust environment. And then the big thing is, from our perspective, is understands where those apps are and where they're being used and how they're being accessed. Now, the advantage our customers have is they can see all that information because we're capturing every packet of header IP packet that's hitting the network and enabling our customers to make some very informed decisions. So thanks for the time today. I think that wraps up my presentation. And if there are any questions, then reach out to the team at Primetel and we'd be happy to talk through any bespoke services.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nick. That was really good. Yeah, so I open it up to the floor. Has anyone got any questions about that or anything they've seen so far? If so, take yourself off mute and ask away. Okay. So thank you, everyone. We've got about 5 minutes left, so you might get a couple of minutes back in your day. But thank you all again for joining. I hope you found it useful. As I mentioned, you know, the team here at Primetel are all about helping you on your journey to find the right solution that's the best fit for your business. You know, whether that's in security, telephony, or networking. You know, we have hundreds of suppliers that we've pre-vetted and understand their strengths and capabilities, so that when presented with a customer challenge, we can quickly match that right supplier to fulfill your needs. So I will follow up with all of you after this, just to run through what your thoughts were on the webinar and see if there's any projects going on that we might be able to help with. And in the meantime, you've got my contact details in the invites. Should you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you all for coming.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good evening.
Thanks, everybody.